TLC is planning a special titled "My Husband's Not Gay."
That's awesome.
And it features...
Can I just say, anytime you got to start a sentence with XYZ is not gay,
Yeah.
you might want to look into it. Okay.
So the interesting thing about this special is that the men that are featured in it admit that they're gay, and their wives know that they're gay. But since they're Mormon, they are fighting their homosexual urges and participating in a traditional marriage anyway, okay? And of course they're doing this because they're forced to because of their religious beliefs. Now, according to TLC, it features 3 married Mormon couples in which the husband is in fact gay, as well as one single man who identifies as homosexual but is actively seeking a wife. This is amazing. And we have a little bit of the commercial for you guys. I want you to take a look at it so you hear their side of the story, and then we'll discuss.
Remember, these people are not gay.
They're not gay.
I like to say I've chosen an alternative to an alternative lifestyle.
I'm attracted to my wife, for sure. And I'm definitely attracted to men, too. He's a good-looking guy, for sure.
Well, I'm interested in men, I'm just not interested in men.
That's clear.
So are they gay or not?
I get a little defensive when somebody calls my husband gay.
The whole act is against the teachings of the gospel.
I don't think people understand this.
You're attracted to men, but you're going on a date with a girl.
I want to marry a woman, but I don't know how to work out these feelings. I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm attracted to men.
Bravo, bravo. Look, TLC is ironically the Learning Channel. They stopped learning a while back, okay? They had Sarah Palin on, they've had, you know, we visited the barrel and it hasn't been the top oftentimes, right? But I'm amused by this. And I find it somewhat worthwhile. It's just absurd. They know that when they label it, my husband's not gay, they know how absurd it is. It's not like they're missing the irony. They know it. They're winking at the audience, right? But at least it exposes, this is a reality. It does happen in the country. And it exposes people to this reality and it makes them think, does this really make sense?
Yeah,
right?
so there are a lot of different thoughts that go through my mind as I watch that trailer or that promo for the special. First off, there's the one guy who says that he's attracted to his wife, but he's also attracted to men. So he's somewhere on that spectrum, according to what he says. He's not necessarily just gay, you know, he's attracted to his wife as well. And the reason why I bring that up is because when I first read about this, I was actually angry with the wives because they know that their husbands aren't straight, but they're taking advantage of the situation anyway, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna have him marry me because I'm pathetic, and I'm going to make him hide the fact or deny the fact that he's gay or has these gay tendencies, and I'm going to force him to be, I mean, look, she's not forcing him to be with her, but she's enabling that, right? And so I think a good person would say, hey, hold up now. No, if you're gay, then you shouldn't try to hide it. You shouldn't try to, you know, conceal your identity or not act on what your natural urges are. But no, they're like, I'm going to marry anyway. But then there's the guy who's like, I'm attracted to my wife and I'm also attracted to guys. That's like a little bit of a gray area, right? Because if he's bisexual, then I feel like it's okay if she married him.
That's the next show. My husband's not gray.
Right.
Okay.
But you see what I'm saying? Because there are plenty of bisexual people out there who have heterosexual marriages.
Yeah.
And that's more open-minded than selfish, I guess.
No, you make a great point. The natural reaction is to be like, ha, you're crazy, dog. Your husband's totally gay. I don't know what you're doing, right? But it is more nuanced than that. There is a spectrum, and if there's somewhere in that spectrum, and of course, understand, this happens to be about Mormons, but it's not just about Mormons. I got news for you. There's a lot of Christians who are gay throughout the country who are married anyway, and not just Christians, of course, all the other religions as well. You think there aren't gay Muslims who have a lot of pressure to get married and pretend to be straight? Of course. And then there are the people who are somewhere in the middle. And for those people, they think, look, yeah, I'm attracted to dudes, but I'm also kind of, or maybe very, or somewhat attracted to women.
Right.
So I'm just going to make it easier on myself, and I'm going to go side with the women so I can get married. And some of them want to have kids. And
Yeah,
so
they
say,
do.
so I'm going to lean in that direction, even though I could lean in either direction.
Yeah, and a woman who understands that her husband's bisexual and marries him anyway, I think is pretty open-minded. Like, it takes an open-minded woman to do that. But for a woman who knows that her husband is gay and that he's forcing a heterosexual relationship, well, then you're stupid. And that you really shouldn't enable that.
So it is fascinating that we're giving the people in the middle of the spectrum, people who married people in the middle of the spectrum, credit, while saying, if you know your husband's all the way on one side of the spectrum, come on, dude, right? Because, first of all, we are so driven by our biology to have sex. They're gonna cheat on you. They're gonna give in, right? And number two, you're asking them, by the very act of marriage, to go against their nature.
Yes.
And putting them in that kind of, hell is too strong a word, but that kind of miserable existence
It's
for their whole lives where they're fighting against their nature. So I'll give you an analogy. It's like, something else in our nature is breathing, right?
Yeah.
You're asking them to stop breathing for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You just limited breaths. Obviously, that's going to hurt. You're going to suffer.
And,
you suffer when you fight any part of your nature.
Going back to what you said about it being, living a hell, it absolutely is. I mean, just flip it on its head. Imagine you, as a very straight guy, are forced to have a gay relationship, and you're not allowed to have heterosexual sex.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable, but you're totally right.
But yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent of that.
Yeah.
So it's horrible. I can't even imagine that.
I mean, look at what Anna's saying, because it's such a good point. Because if you're one of the straight people out there who think like, oh, yeah, whatever, it's just a choice, man, right? And, okay, if you do flip it, and if we lived in that world, anything's possible, right? First of all, our morality in this regard would be the exact opposite if we had overpopulation in the world. The reason that this morality is as it is because it came out of the Israelites have to defeat the Canaanites, so we need more kids, that are going to grow into soldiers. I'm way oversimplifying, and it applies to many different cultures, etc. But we need to populate. We need to get more people in our tribe, right? Because we're going to go fight the other tribe. We need kids. We can't afford to have gays here. We got to survive. We got to survive, right? That's where it even before the fighting of the tribes, it comes to survival, right? If we had a situation where our survival depended on us not having so many people around, we had horrible overpopulation, etc. Believe me, humans would develop a morality where we would say being gay is awesome, okay? And then imagine a situation where you're a straight guy and they're like, no, if you were really moral, you'd have sex with men.
Yeah, it's interesting because
your whole life.
So you could be right, but now we do have an issue with overpopulation, right? And limited resources. And
by the way, that's part of the reason why it seems like we're waking up to the reality that forcing people against their nature is a bad thing. But part of the reason we're waking up to that reality is because we don't need to keep populating the earth anymore. So we go, oh, yeah, okay, I guess we don't have to enforce those morals that don't make any sense. This is part of the process, right? And so that's the reason I like this show, because it's also part of the process. It shows people this is something that's happening in the country, and if you think it's absurd, well, there's a good reason to think that, and at least take a look at it. Don't avert your gaze.